and the play takes place during the course of one day. Curtain.
On a day like today, one not quite like any other, the sky gushes newborn dawn, rushing from the dark of night, the blush of it pulsing through limbs of wakening trees, of lanky fawns and foals and children. Hillsides startle pink awake, while baby juncos scream hunger that wakes the puffed up robin that hops to wake up worms for its own breakfast. The rush of morning pink and lavender unswaddles the little town, admiring fingers and toes and miracles of being, rushing right up to the window behind which Rosie stirs, 65 and cradled in her hollow of old mattress, arthritic knees coupled and quietly complaining to each other, one hand curled over steady heart. She scooches soft curves around her husband Orrin's sinewy back.
Orrin? You awake?
Now.
It's morning. Yup. And guess what?
What, love?
It's a day like no other.
You say that every day.
And it's true every day.
Good thing. We're having another day.
Guess what I dreamed?
Never in a million years.
I was willowy and young and still climbing trees, and nothing hurt. And all the boys wanted me. Remember that?
Oh, yeah. Me most of all, wanting you.
But you weren't there. I was there at the creek with the gang, Ava and Margot and Robin, and all those gangly boys that always showed up. I dreamed I was searching the bottom of the creek for the perfect rock. There was one that was pearly white, and I picked that one up. But then I found the one I was looking for. It was flat and black and made up of little stones. One of those rocks you ask yourself about later, like, why'd I save this old ugly thing? Then Rusty Hardmark came along all pushy and bossy and wanted to see the rocks. I showed him the white one, but then he wanted to see the one I had behind my back. Finally, with all his teasing, I just showed him the black one.
Let me guess. He hucked it.
Something like that. He grabbed it and said, "Why'd you pick up this old clunker? The only thing this rock is good for is skipping." And he just whipped it off down the creek, kerplunk.
That's Rusty.
What'd you dream?
I broke the truck.
Again, where were you this time?
Down by the mill, just before you get to Olson's. I was driving along, the transmission just dropped out on the road.
That's major. But surely you didn't break the truck if the transmission just fell out.
Oh, believe me, if it fell out, it was my fault, and I broke the truck. But what was really major was that I didn't have a clue about how to fix it. There were no tools in the truck, of course, and I figured I should know how to fix it, but it was like I never saw a transmission before. So basically, I was screwed. Oh, I gotta get up. My hip is killing me. Too much laying around.
With the yellowing of this extraordinary day, colors have clarified, and birds have settled into singing and worming and cussing and seeding and flying, soaring, slicing the mid-morning into manageable segments of being. The dogs, Arthur and Morning Glory, have spread their warmness across Rosie and Orrin's sunny driveway dust like blankets. Nearby meadow grasses have begun to dance and fan the air that whispers to the leaves to spin and twist on slender stems, to move the sun to shine hotter on Warming Creek, that pushes the reflection of all that is in the valley over the hills and around the bends and curves of people's lives, past the hospital, around the sagging bones of the departing barn, right up to the kitchen window behind which Orrin sights through his reading glasses at his folded newspaper and reports to Rosie.
Any babies born today?
Nope, not today.
Speaking of babies, earlier I was remembering what went through my head the first time I held Ariadne.
What?
Well, I thought, here's our first grandbaby, brand new, and already her life is getting shorter. Every day she lives, it gets a day shorter. We're born with all these days, and from the get-go we start using them up.
That seems kind of backward to me. My brain is saying, now wait just a damn minute here.
Well, it's the truth. We don't know how many days we have, but maybe if we did, we'd use them better.
I doubt no one would make much of a difference until we get closer to the end, and of course, when we were young, we wouldn't have believed it anyway.
What about the obituaries?
No one we know died.
That's good news. Though I guess Margot will be in there before long.
I suppose. Here's a guy from Ukiah died last week who was only 30.
What'd he die of?
Doesn't say. But it's not right dying that young. Person ought to be old, older than me, and all used up before he dies.
His poor mother. How does she bear it? I heard about a kid the other day who was depressed, so he got drunk, stole a motorcycle, and zoomed into rush hour traffic, busiest intersection he could find, right into the front of a car driven by a woman with 2 kids.
What happened?
He went flying, and cars were going every which way to avoid running him over flat. The kid went to the hospital, but no one was seriously injured. But what was he thinking? Was he so far gone in his own stuff that someone else's life didn't matter to him? Now there's an act of desperation for you.
There's plenty of that going around.
At first, it just made me mad.
But Rosie, he's just a kid. Why did it make you mad?
Because he's a selfish kid who doesn't care about anybody but himself. He's an inconsiderate punk. But then I was mad because he's depressed. So depressed someone else's life doesn't matter to him. And he's just a kid, and he could die because he's too naive to know that stopping the misery by suicide also ends your life. That if he doesn't live long enough, he'll never know there's something else, better, bigger. And if you don't know that, you just can't bear to live here. And there's probably no one around telling him that stuff. He's certainly not likely to get it from a video game or TV. And all of that makes me mad. What are we doing to our kids in this world? And where were his people, the ones who could help him?
Well, Rosianna, that's why there are old fogies like us who know something about life that the youngsters can't, and that's why kids need grandparents and people who can fill up the holes in their lives. Of course, there's nothing simple about that formula either.
Well, one of the things you and I have learned from our depressions is that it won't always feel like it does when you're in them. And that's only because we've lived so damn long and come through so many of them.
There are old people who never get that one either, I guess.
Yeah, and here we are. There's Margot just trying to stay alive, while kids with their whole lives ahead of them are throwing themselves in front of cars.
Oh, it's a heck of a thing, and I certainly don't have answers. I think I better go mow the lawn before it gets any hotter and the grass gets any higher.
At midday, the sun swells every surface clearer, larger, pounds shadows into the ground, chases old dogs to skimpy shade, pushes wind to hurry the traffic that carries the people of the little town to the rush of their lives. The glare of too much. It beats up at the bottoms of feet and bakes macadam to molten river, of streets that lead to what is not done but must be finished before it's too late. It has dogged Orrin when he checked the bolts in the truck transmission and changed the oil, and when he discovered the fan belt was about to go, and as he walked to the parts store to get the fan belt and came home to install it, and then to mow the lawn like he planned when he left the house in the morning. It is the heat of the day, and his major chore has not yet even begun. It is this he is contemplating while sitting, just for a moment, in his grandfather's rocker on the porch, where Rosie finds him.
Are you ready for some lunch? What kind of answer is that? I haven't seen you sit still this long since you were sicker than a dog last winter. Are you okay?
I'm all right. I was just fancying about not doing anything for the rest of the day. Might be nice, though it ain't gonna happen. But actually, I was making a list of what I'm not gonna do this afternoon. Since I can't get it all done, I'm prioritizing what not to do.
Oh, I'm already way ahead of you on that. I already did not scrub the wall behind the table in the hallway, even though it needs it after Hector spilled that muck back there. But if I get down on all fours, I won't be able to get back up. And you would have to come in and haul me up, which you probably couldn't do anymore because I've gotten so damn fat. And then you'd have to call the fire department, and they'd send only their youngest and most handsome to haul my ass up off the floor.
Two bags, man.
And that's just more humiliation than I can stand. And who sees the muck anyway?
Yeah, but seriously, Rosie, I thought when I retired I'd have time to get some stuff fixed around here, but I just can't seem to keep up. I get one thing fixed and that just leads to something else that's breaking down. And I can't do as much as I used to, but there's still just as much stuff to do. I didn't know it was gonna happen this way. I don't have the energy, and somehow along the way my muscles just sort of turned to mush. I can't even make muscle anymore. And I swear some days every damn muscle and joint in my body hurts and I just have to make myself move off this porch. I don't remember our folks talking about any of this stuff. I'm thinking when I reach 70 I might actually be old. They're right when they say aging's not for sissies.
Well, you won't be 70 for a few more months. And as my brother pointed out recently, it doesn't really matter whether you're a sissy or not. Aging happens to everybody, the braves and the sissies alike. And I think aging beats the alternative.
Oh, thanks for that.
Well, as for our folks, I don't think people in their generation talked much about what was going on with them, except maybe to their friends. About the time you want to ask them questions about that kind of stuff, they're gone. But I know what you mean. Sometimes I think UPS arrived in the middle of the night and switched out my body for a different one that's suddenly even older, and it works worse. It all makes me realize that the body and being start to separate long before we die.
Yep. Well, I suppose complaining about it won't help much.
Who's complaining? We're just stating the facts. What will help?
Dunno. Maybe eating a healthy lunch that doesn't include most of my old favorite foods because they either don't agree with me anymore or are not good for me or both, and then going back to work is as good as it gets.
Well, let's get on with it. Can't wait for that Brussels sprout tea and thistle soup and mashed rutabaga on whole wheat toast. Hold the mayo.
Ice cream for dessert?
Not on your life, Buster.
In the late afternoon of this one-of-a-kind day, when the light camps drunkenly across the town, and shadows start to slide out of the trees, vultures glide the skies in search of what is ripe, and shade deepens the dark creek beds, and nudges Arthur and Glory back to soft, still warm grasses holding down the day. Already evening calls. Ava pushes her shadow like a laden shopping cart before her, down the hill from the hospital where she has spent the day with her twin sister, Margot, along the lazy creek bathed in gathering slow, with the hawks screeching her pain high over her head, past the barn with its bones falling in on themselves. And now she lumbers up the walkway to her best friend Rosie's house.
How is she today?
About the same. She and I both know she's gonna die, but she's just her usual old ornery self and won't admit it. Just makes me so mad I could spit. Why can't she just accept it?
Well, it's not that simple. And we may be in a hurry for her suffering to be done, But you know you'll miss her like crazy when she's gone.
Oh, I know that, but you know how she is.
I do. Your mother used to say she invented stubborn.
Look, she has no intention of dying quietly. Heck, she probably weighs 90 pounds. She calls herself soul in a shell. There are hardly enough organs left in her to keep the lights on, but she is still yelling at the doctors to fix her and pull out all the stops. Spare nothing! Is this the best you can do?
Knowing Margot and how she likes to be in control, she must feel real trapped.
And she's as mad as I've ever seen her, and now she's mad at me.
Why?
Rosie, she was in so much pain that the sheets hurt her skin. I couldn't stand watching her suffer. This morning she was screaming, but when a nurse tried to give her something, she yelled at her to get the hell out. I finally called Dr. Williams and told him to start the morphine. Margot made me her power of attorney, and I say it's time, even if she is mad at me for the rest of her life. And she probably will be.
Oh, that must have been a hard decision when you know how much she's been fighting it.
It was the hardest and the easiest decision I ever made. I knew she would hate it because she sees it as giving up. But at the same time, I knew I had to do it. You don't just sit there and let someone you love suffer like that. Who would I be if I did? And I feel so darn guilty, even though I think I did the right thing. So much for the myth that if you do the right thing, it'll feel good. If you'll pardon my Swahili, I feel like shit.
My guess is she made you power of attorney because she knew you would make the hard decisions she couldn't or wouldn't. She's so sick she's totally out of her league. That's why she needs you.
Well, she's certainly no good at not being in control.
That's the thing about dying. No one's in control of it. Death is one of the biggest things we face. We like to think we're in control, with modern medicine that prolongs life for almost forever, and with nice Hollywood dying scenes where the patient takes her last breath and dies with a sigh, makeup intact.
I had no idea this was going to be so messy and hard and ugly. I'm so mixed up. And she is such a mess. Nothing is like either of us thinks it should be. I asked her the other day what she wants her death to be like. I was hoping she would figure out that acceptance might bring her a more peaceful death. But she just cut her eyes at me and announced, I have every intention of fighting this all the way to the Supreme Court, and don't you try to get in my way.
That sounds exactly like Margot. She lived her whole life like that, fighting for every good cause, taking nothing for granted, and angry with anyone who did. You know, I get it. This is her way of honoring life. I have to admire her for that.
But why me? Why did I get this argumentative, bossy old broad of a sister? She's been railing at me since we came out of the womb.
True. And I get that too. The way Margot has always gotten things done is to have something to push against, an antagonist, a deadline, and no, it gets her going. She just needs you one more time to be something to push against.
But I don't want to be that person, Rosie. It's really not me.
This is a hard thing you're doing, Eva, but she only needs you to do it once more.
I get it, but it doesn't seem right that on top of losing her, I have to be the bad guy.
You're spiritually employed, and hard as it is, it's right. I have this picture in my mind of Margot pushing and kicking and pounding on this big, huge door about 2 feet thick. She's just wailing away at it, and it's the door of death. The only way she can get to her death is to push against it.
Does that door look anything like me?
Your picture must be nailed up there.
Oh, Ava!
Hi, Oren.
Are you done for the day?
Almost. How's Margot, Ava?
Ornery and unhappy.
Sounds like the Margot we all know and love. She always has had a kind of cauliflower disposition.
Oh, a what?
Maybe it's melancholy disposition.
The purple of night wicks out of the horizon and fills the sky with breath of make-believe, while redwoods and ferns exhale perfume of night. Owls question the wind that answers in puffs of song. This, the lullaby of the forest next to Rosie and Orrin's home, where Morning Glory and Arthur have crawled into their nest under the porch, where Glory's eyes fly open and stay that way when her tired heart beats one loud thump and goes still as stopped. Rosie and Orrin, wrapped in the warmth of having found the depths and heights of each other yet one more time, damp with miraculous waters of swimming and drowning in each other, still perched on the lip of something entire, lean towards siren sleep calling their names.
Maple, we can still do it. Everything worked.
It's a miracle. What was it this time?
Certainly not a wiffle ball.
That's good. A slider.
No, I think this would qualify as a bases-loaded home run.
And you're home?
That I am. Home. Are you okay?
I'm good, oh. I'm home with you. It's all so different now. All that raging passion I used to have in my body is so blunted now that I can hardly find it sometimes. And my body doesn't even respond like it used to anymore. I can get really sad about that. But then you start to gather the kindling and lay the fire so carefully and skillfully inside me. And if I just let myself go, I start to feel the first flick of flame, and then the wanting to be so close to you fans the flames, and the next thing I know, if I'm lucky and we've worked our asses off, I'm screaming out of control and careening over the cliff and flying with wanting you. It's so good now, in a different way than it used to be.
I know, Maple. Here, let me move my arm. It's going to sleep. Better. Tell me how it's different.
It's precious, because I know we can't take it for granted. It can go away any time. With the changes in our body, it's such a celebration when we arrive. We could lose the ability to do this altogether, and certainly sometime we will. But what makes it even more special is that one of us is going to be gone someday, and there will not even be touching and holding. And the closeness is really what it's about. It makes any other stuff that gets in our way just seem not very important.
I agree. Turn over so I can snuggle your back.
Okay, but I'm warning you, there may be a hot flash coming on.
I'm used to those, as long as you don't spontaneously combust.
Can't promise anything. Orrin,
What?
sometimes I just feel like I'm a life sandwich, a big fat slice of living between the bread of being born and being dead, being young and being old.
That's because you are my favorite sandwich these days.
Mine too.
There is a time in the dark of night, that close, cloaked wool between waking and sleeping, when the air is rich with prayer song, when thoughts, ideas, joy and fear and questions and laments, all are prayers woven into the fiber of the cloth of night, the one that wraps the sleeping and the wakeful alike.
Thank you for another day of life.
Breathing in, breathing out, prayer is whisper, sigh of oaks, splash of jumping fishes.
Please don't throw yourselves in front of traffic, young ones, before I know how to help.
Margot's my age.
Cough of fox and whoosh of owl.
Somebody help me, I want to live. So afraid to let go.
Whisper of listening grasses, scuttle of dust swirl.
Margot's dying. I have to be strong enough to help her.
I can't do it all now. What'll happen when I can't do any of it?
Cry of coyote, wail of siren.
Thank you for all the love in my life.
Will she still love me when I'm old?
Rush of creek, crack of frog.
One more day.
What will we do when we can't manage to live in our house anymore?
She'll be gone soon, and I'll never get to touch her again.
Bless the young ones and the old ones and all the ones in between.
Cricket chirp, creak of old barns.
I should have been nicer to her.
Peace to Margot and Ava.
Thank you for my Rosie.
Sigh of grace.
Thank you for the beautiful day, this day like no other.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Curtain.